love to wrestle. I am a guy, so inherently by nature, I love physical contact, physical sports. Just love the interaction of kind of getting a chance to see what you're made of. And growing up, my dream, kind of the passing of the torch when you're a kid is, can you beat up your dad? And for me, it was this voyage that I was on from a really young age, from like the age of 3. Your dad lets you win, which I always got frustrated with growing up. So I was like, I really want to beat him. I don't want him to be like, oh, falling over backwards. You hit me really hard. I'm like, Dad, I'm 6. You outweigh me by like 200 pounds. How could I beat you up? So it was this constant, trying to beat up Dad. And when I was about 8, I found weakness in my dad. And he had this patch of hair on his chest that was really, it's really tender area, because my oldest brother, when he was a baby, fell asleep on my dad's chest, kind of just grabbing at the hair, so it made a really tender spot. So if I ever got in a pinch, when my dad had me almost pinned, I'd just pull on some chest hair in that little spot, and he'd be like, oh, and I could pounce on top and win. Another person I really liked wrestling was my twin brother Justin. We shared the same room. We were dressed the same until we were 10, so it led to a lot of angst between the two of us. And we were like, dude, we just wrestled for the dumbest things. We played PlayStation, and somebody scores a touchdown, and all of a sudden, oh, you beat me! Bam! Punches and wrestling, and it's kind of the seeing what you're made of. And I wrestled a lot with him, especially in high school, because I knew I could win. I was on the football team. I outweighed him by about 20 pounds. I was just a more aggressive person. So I wrestled with him because I knew I could win. And we're going to take a look today at a set of twins that didn't wrestle maybe with each other, but one of them eventually had to learn how to wrestle. Jacob and Esau. The passage I'm going to be using today is actually in Genesis 33, 22 through 31. But before we get there, we're going to highlight some history about their interaction with each other. Jacob was the youngest of the two of them. He was a mama's boy, kind of a homebody, did a lot of cooking, and his name actually means deceiver, or one who grasps at the heel, because when he was born, he kind of latched on. And I kind of relate to him because I'm the youngest of the two of me and Justin. The doctor pulled out the wrong one first, and I'm holding to that until the day I die. So, I was just falling behind for a more dramatic victory. So, but then there's Esau. He's like the man's man. And, anybody watch Discovery Channel? Ever seen Man vs. Wild? He's like the Bear Grylls character who, for no apparent reason, just goes out into the wilderness to try and see if he can survive. Like, you send him in the woods with a toothpick and a pocket knife, and he builds a shopping mall. Like, he's a man's man. He's out in the woods. He likes doing things out in the middle of nowhere. And growing up, they probably wrestled a lot because they're twins, they're brothers. It's kind of what we do, how we learn, what we're made of. And Jacob probably got the snot kicked out of him a lot because his older brother was bigger, stronger, hairier, more masculine, and but Jacob was smarter. Jacob actually ends up tricking his brother out of his birthright, tricking his brother with a bowl of soup, which a bowl of soup for the birthright and the blessing, pretty good deal actually. So he's pretty smart. And when he does this, he ends up making his older brother angry for good reason, and then flees because his brother is probably going to kill him, and he flees to his uncle's house, his uncle Laban, where he meets these two young ladies. One of them is Leah, and the Bible actually says she has weak eyes, which some scholars think that she had a lazy eye. Others think that it's just delicate eyes. But so she was kind of the person who, like, look over here. No, over here, Leah, here. Like, you couldn't tell where she's looking. And then there's Rachel, the younger, who says she was beautiful in form and appearance. So she was like a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10. She was probably a 15, actually. So Jacob's like, okay, I'll work 7 years for her, for the younger one, because, she's a fox. She is. And works for 7 years. The marriage ceremony, she has a veil over her face. They spend the night together and wake up. Oh, it's Leah. Oh, he got tricked. He got tricked kind of in the same way he tricked his own father to get the blessing. He ends up stuck, and his own trick gets pulled on himself. And funny thing is that I think one thing we can learn from this little story is that sometimes the things we don't like in other people are the things we don't like in ourselves. Jacob got frustrated because he got deceived. He was cheated. He was robbed of 7 years of his life. He ended up having to actually work 14 years to get Rachel. And sometimes maybe the things we struggle with and the things we find the most appalling in other people are the things we find appalling in ourselves. Growing up, I was always frustrated with Justin because he was always arrogant when he beat me. He gloated about it for about a week. But I did the same thing to him, so it's kind of back and forth, give and take. And eventually, Jacob ends up having to go and meet his brother, whom he cheated out of essentially the things that would get him set for life. And he goes out to meet Esau, and he has to face his past. And Jacob ends up splitting his stuff into 2 different groups. He sends first thing he sends is his stuff across this river to Esau. And he tells his servants, if you get caught, just say it's a gift to Esau. Just that way you're safe. It's a gift that I sent to him so that you don't get killed. And then he sends over his family, and we pick up the story in Genesis chapter 33. Actually, right now we're in verse 23. It says, after he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could no longer overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The man asked, what is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men, and have overcome. I think it's interesting to note that there's no reason given for the wrestling match. There's no mention of who started it, but there is a mention of who finished it. And let's just say God's a dirty fighter. Well, granted, first of all, it's God, all-powerful, all-knowing, limits himself to wrestle with his creation, to wrestle with somebody that he could kill just by looking at him, which I think shows the character of God, his gentleness when maybe we're struggling. And another thing other than that he's just a dirty fighter, God's a cheater. In this instance, you wrestle with the guy, and all of a sudden, I'm just going to pop your hip out, and then, I can't seem to win, so I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to injure you, so you can't use a leg to be able to wrestle. And but Jacob doesn't give up. As the man tries to leave, he says, I won't let you go until you bless me. He probably, grabs at the guy and just, he's struggling, he's at his wit's end, he's at his physical limitations, and he still won't give up. Jacob wrestled, and his name was changed from deceiver to overcomer, or to chosen one. And I think some of us today need to realize that we need to wrestle with God and maybe deal with some of the frustrations in our own past and some of the things that have frustrated us in our own lives. Maybe the hurts that have occurred to us, or the hurts that we've maybe initiated into others' lives.